You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to follow growth hacks to go viral. And you don't have to burn out.
It's very tempting to do what's trending, but stay in touch with your inner self and do what feels right instead and what feels the most like you. And that will also take a while to discover. So keep writing and then you will know that, okay, like this feels more like me. And it's a growth process.
Niharikaa is a writer who gained 75,000 LinkedIn followers in just 12 months and became a top writer on Medium. And in this episode of Creators on Air, she shares how she built her business and went full-time as a creator by working just 2 to 4 hours a day.
I used first Medium and then I used to apply for roles on Upwork. Now Medium since a month is not as high paying because the rules, but the rules are always changing. I think writing on Medium is still better than writing anywhere else because it already has the readership, it already has publications, and you're not taking stress of posting a website and your website not because the website. I also think LinkedIn is a very good place to get clients, but definitely use Upwork because that's where I used my high paying gig.
Amazing. And you actually achieved recognition as a top writer on Medium, which is amazing. What advice do you have for writers who actually want to build an income with Medium?
So it's like I think I knew an answer for this 2 months ago, but right now pretty much all Medium writers are figuring it out because sudden change. And so according to the guidelines, now the articles that work are very deeply researched, like something for itself, but not 15,000 work. So it's actually become really academic that way. Personal experiences plus a hardcore research. And I know like researching for 15 to 18 hours isn't everyone's cup of tea. It definitely isn't mine. What used to work earlier, I'm literally just writing good quality and submitting to good publication. Publication work, yeah.
And what about LinkedIn? Because you gained 75,000 followers in 12 months, which is crazy. And you're a top LinkedIn voice. So what kind of strategies did you use to kind of grow your audience and get more attention on that platform?
So I don't write about what everyone else is writing about. So you never see me talk about ChatGPT and then making carousels because everyone else is making carousels and then talking about millionaire habits because I think everyone's doing it. And I don't want to jump on that bandwagon. I think what stands out with my content, the feedback that I get most often is that it's very real. And something as simple as I don't even put makeup and I put all my photos. And I have so many women telling me that they like that side of me because otherwise, whenever they're on social media, looking up and watching TV, everyone is looking how they don't look in the real life. And so I think that realness appeals to people. And I would just recommend that it's very tempting to do what's trending, but like stay in touch with your inner self and do what feels right instead and what feels the most like you. And that will also take a while to discover. So keep writing for like say 100 days and then you will know that, okay, like this feels more like me. And it's a growth process.
Definitely. I like that. I like how authentic you are. And I find it really interesting that you said that you don't post carousels because I feel like everyone who gives me advice on growing on LinkedIn says that, you should be posting carousels because they do really well. So have you noticed any like particular types of content that work best for you on LinkedIn?
So text plus photos work well, but that being said, when I was a part of the LinkedIn Creators Accelerator program last year in summer, I started doing a weekly series because it was mandatory to post 4 times a week. And that series, even though I had, I think, 30,000 followers back then, it used to get about double the views, like 50,000, which is
Wow.
very rare with any content, right? You usually don't get more views a lot. So I know like 30 to 90-second videos perform extremely well for me. But now since I'm putting that energy on YouTube, I thought on LinkedIn. But yeah, I would say like experiment with things. And if somebody is telling you one thing short work, like then that's not true. That's like, there's no one truth for everyone. I know that's like more of a spiritual thing, but it does work online. Like there's no one thing for everyone. And you just be like everyone else.
And do you have a way of writing on LinkedIn that's different to the way that you write like articles for Medium? Like how do you distinguish between your writing on?
Yeah, like so in LinkedIn I'm gonna start taking it seriously from this month. Like so that's my goal. I think all this while I haven't taken it seriously and I've grown.
Wow.
But now I feel that if I do take it seriously, then I will grow. All this while, like I've just been playing around. Like before getting to this call, 10 minutes before I wrote something and I published it. And it's very ad hoc for me, whereas for Medium, I have an idea, I would outline that, then I would write it, I have a three-step editing process, and there's a lot of layers to it. But on LinkedIn, let's just type and publish and forget about it.
That's crazy that you haven't taken it seriously, but you get like 2 million impressions a month.
Maybe that's what working.
Yeah. So, like, what do you think makes your content so engaging on LinkedIn that is bringing in the impressions? Do you think it's just authenticity alone, or is
I think I talk a lot about my story because I think all of us, like, our most unique leverage is our story. Like, nobody has lived the same experience as you or me, and then talking about it makes you stand out. So I think that's definitely helpful. And yeah, honestly, like, I know authenticity sounds very small and it's overworked and overused. But to be fair, the trend I notice across platforms is everyone's trying to imitate that viral sales copy, viral article, viral LinkedIn or others. So it's something that's lagging big time.
mm,
So I do think like self-awareness is a very good foundation for good content because it's what makes you stand out. And also I think I encourage you to write about what you feel like, write about travel and it almost always goes viral.
oh wow,
So, and I just think it's because it's a breath of fresh air, nothing else.
yeah.
So don't be afraid to experiment.
And do you make your stories, so the things that you're kind of going through right now, or like your travel, do you somehow relate it back to your audience, or like how do you incorporate your
I al-
stories?
I always have a takeaway in my content because I want somebody to ideally pause, reflect, and take action.
Hmm.
But it's not something I can record if they're doing it. But at least I want them to keep coming back because it improves their life in some way. So I always have a takeaway, and that takeaway doesn't have to be something big, like find your purpose. Sometimes it can be something just as simple as to think of something today. And all my content has a takeaway, not very centric, and it involves my story because I want it to be for the audience.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of writers are on. I don't know whether to call it Twitter or X, but I feel like there's so many writers on there. Where do you think like LinkedIn is helpful versus like Twitter or X? Like, should writers be on both platforms or?
Think, why not both? You can always repurpose content, right? Repurpose LinkedIn into Twitter, Twitter into LinkedIn. It doesn't to be like unique content. Like most of my 80% of them are actually just copy pasted sentences from a Medium article highlights. So every time like three, four people highlight an article, Medium sends in emails. By the end of the week, there are like around 20, 30 odd emails. And then I just copy paste some nice highlights and schedule it for Twitter.
Wow, that's such a good idea. Which platform's been most beneficial to you as a writer, do you think?
I really like Twitter for its community factor,
Mm.
and because it's what I mean, a random tweet created my code base post, which is like a pretty big thing for me. Whereas I think I started using LinkedIn much later. So I think with LinkedIn, you do have access to more potential clients. There's no denying that, and it's much easier to grow. But I do like the homegrown vibe of Twitter where you can meet your tribe across the world, and I really like that vibe.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like
I definitely hang out more on Twitter.
Yeah, I feel like most of the creators I've met as well, they've all been through Twitter. Like that's how I connected with you as well. It's because I saw your Twitter account. So I definitely agree with that. Do you ever have like because this is your career and your whole business runs on writing,
Yeah, I
do you
believe.
have a process for thinking about, like what's a profitable writing niche or like how well will a topic do? Do you think about that when you're writing?
So my business anyway has, I think it's over a 90% profit margin. I don't know if it's 92 or 95. So I know that, I mean, my profit is way more than my expenses, so it's profitable. But a profitable niche, I feel that's such a temporary sell. Like, what is AI selling right now? And let's
Mm,
completely start talking about it. My people will kind of lose me because that's not the person they signed up.
mm,
So there's this dialogue from a Hindi movie which is really famous, and what it translates to is that if you chase excellent, successful content, and I think that's the path I follow. That if I chase good, I have a good intention, and I'm giving value, then success will follow. But if I'm only going to chase a metric, then it's not going to come to me.
that's amazing. And how have you? I feel like you've grown a personal brand for sure with what you're doing, but you've also managed to build your business as well. Like, how have you managed to do both kind of simultaneously?
I think business was a product of the personal brand. I never wanted to do a business. I always thought, again,
Oh,
because nobody around
really?
me does it. Yeah, because like my friends who do it, and a lot of their businesses are set up by their fathers, so they're continuing the legacy.
Yeah.
And I think like I know one of them who's doing her own, but apart from that, nobody is doing their own thing. And some of them who are, it's not like they're doing it to make money. It's like a passion project. So I'm not really exposed to that side in real life. And so that's why this, the business aspect of it only started, it was very random. So I had my needs hurt and then I was in bed for 4 weeks. I couldn't walk or do anything. And I just sent a tweet that, is there anyone I can help with being more consistent in writing? And if you can, let me know. And if I can, then let me comment and I will DM you. Yeah, it was that. Comment and I'll DM. And I set up an auto DM, which led to a Google form. And around 126 people or something replied to it. And
Wow.
around 70 of them filled the form, over 70 of them. And then I shortlisted 40 people from 20 countries, put them in a Slack group. I taught them everything I knew. And it worked. Like now, like we're gonna start our next cohort on 9th October and we just have one seat. Like we sold 8 times out of 9,
Amazing.
7 times out of 8, yeah. So that, and then what I started doing was I started catering to the problem that my audience has. So it wasn't that let me make this product and have a freelance strategy money. It was always that what are the questions people are asking most often and can I solve for them? And that became a product and that became a business. So it was a very gradual process. It was never an idea or it wasn't even intentional or a part of a plan.
I think that's incredible, especially since you've had like no business background or anyone really around you doing something like that. What has surprised you the
Well,
most about running your own business?
over that, being a financially independent woman in a South Asian society is very less about money. It's a lot about just the dynamics and how you feel about yourself and how others look at you. And I wish more and more people, more and more women, at least in this part of the world, chase financial independence.
That's amazing. How's that fueled you
And the
as
internet just has so much of potential. It just has so much potential for people to make money.
how do
Sorry,
you
I missed her
how
question.
has that fueled you as a creator and a writer then? That experience of having financial freedom and
Oh, it's feeling great. Like I can do whatever I want and I don't have to think of anything. And just to come to a place that from thinking of should I spend on this or should I spend on that to just thinking that I know I'm anywhere not and I'm not a shopaholic. I want something and I don't have to overthink about it. That just feels nice. It's so relaxed
yeah.
mentally. Like at least this is not one of my stressors out there.
Mm.
And this is a stressor for so many people.
And what does the business actually look like? So as a writer, what are your different revenue streams?
So there's this Summit 21, which is a cohort-based course, takes place 4 times a year. There's a LinkedIn recorded course, which is fairly new. There's a LinkedIn playbook, a Medium playbook. There's a side hustle checklist, which is actually free. These are all products. Now I'm beginning to get LinkedIn sponsorships because my audience has grown. 2 days ago, I collaborated with Amazon, and yeah, so that's a new stream. There's affiliate marketing, which is something I've been active with since the beginning. So wherever it fits my audience and I plug in something that I have personally been a part of, a course or used a software, so I plug it in and that helps. I don't freelance anymore, but for a while, like until 8 months ago, that was once in a while income stream. Consulting again, I do it very rarely, but I will be doing more webinar because I did my first ever webinar last month, and in that 1 hour, like it was like a really small amount, but still ended up making about $1,500. Not bad at all. And yeah, so these are some of my income
That's
streams.
amazing. How do you
But they're
just
always changing, right? They're always changing.
yeah, I mean that's what I was gonna ask. Like the fact that they are always changing, like how do you decide when it's time to, like switch things up or like add a new income stream and how do you decide what that's gonna be?
Well, I don't overthink it. I just follow my bliss, like whatever I feel like.
Crazy. And what about like how to price things? So like The
Again, it's just very intuitive. I don't do research and see what others are doing. I just do what I feel is right and what fits the boat. That's all. Like, I don't overthink it.
That's
Like, I
amazing.
feel for the longest part of my life, I've over thought about every single thing, and that didn't get me anywhere. So now I don't overthink it all. At least I try not.
So, do you have any advice for people who do overthink everything? Because that's definitely me.
I would say again, if once you become self-aware, a lot of things get sorted. A lot of questions that I get: what product should I make? How should I monetize? How should I do? A lot of the hows get very easy when you know what's happening inside, because then you will get your own path. Like, there are people who make decisions on surface level thinking that, okay, Justin Welch is making $130,000 a month, so what to do is not willing and just do this, do that. But no, that's not how it works. If everyone would do the same thing,
Hmm.
then it's not that everyone would be successful. So again, I think very less people actually see answers and so that's a very, very, very important though.
That's such a good answer. I love that. Thank you. So you started writing as a side hustle, and you actually have a newsletter about like side hustles. So it's called Side Hustle Saturdays. What do you wish
Yeah,
more people knew about writing as a side hustle and like being a creator as a side hustle?
I would say that firstly about I would address the writing bit that it's a really good place to be in, but it's a choice whether you fall into the pity party of oh like writing is $5 doesn't work, I don't want to do it and this and that, or you actually up your game and become a good writer and demand good money because people would only pay you well if you're good. If you don't write well because you think you write well, doesn't write well. So if you don't even write well and then you think about not earning, then that's a very new issue. It's no nothing nobody else can solve. And the problem with the internet is that the moment you're negative, you find a very good audience because everyone loves to prevent competing together. So notice these small things and don't fall into it. Focus building your catalog of work. That tomorrow it's not you, the person has to see. And the moment they see your work, they know you're good and they want to come and work with you. So that's as simple as it gets. So writing in a side hustle is great, but build your skill and keep doing that on the side. Keep applying and building a catalog and keep writing online. And as a creator, I would say that first, find like create productized solutions. So don't try to create a product, try to create a solution because people will pay when their problem is solved. If honestly, like if something help, if I have to pay a few, like if I have to pay money and my problem, which I'm struggling with, gets solved, and I say, why wouldn't,
Hmm.
and that's with most people. So I would say that product as it don't just create product because YouTube says that ebooks is a passive income stream. Like, who's gonna
Mm.
if it's not solved
Very true. What advice do you have to actually get better at writing?
by writing? Very underrated advice.
Okay, love it. And just be consistent and put things out there, I'm guessing. And how did you go from like having writing as a side hustle to like full time? Like what made you kind of hit that decision that I'm gonna make that leap?
So I promised myself that when I make triple my salary for 3 months, I'm gonna call it quits. And then I did. The only thing was when I did call it, I had like a 90-day notice period. So that was another 3 months. So yeah, but that was my goal.
And what advice would you give to somebody who wants to make that transition from side hustle to full
Be
time?
be practical about it. Don't jump into what gurus say and following your passion and all the efforts that you have to pay.
Yeah.
And unless you know you're getting money from somewhere, then don't let go of money that 100% coming to your bank account every. So I would say to follow something similar to what and obviously it varies depending on the responsibilities you've what place you're in. Like I do not have rent to pay. So I think that's a big chunk of expenditure for most people out there.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say that have your side hustle pay. I mean, if you're from a developing country, then more than your salary. But if you're already from a developing country, then at least it matches your salary for 2 months because then you get a hike of it. Don't make it like, oh, 1 month in fact my salary and up. Don't do it. And then like also have clients in the pipeline because if this one goes, then what? You don't want to be in the deep end. So have the money bit sorted and have enough savings, obviously.
Mm. And how do you manage your time at the moment? Because like, what is your
Because
like actual writing routine or process like versus like managing all the business stuff and like running the courses? How are you? How do you balance things?
I don't work much. I only work for around 3 hours, maximum 4 hours. Today is a busy day for me, and it's gonna be a 4 hour, 5 minute work. And this is like one of my very rare.
But do you have like a
So,
structure for like I'm going to be writing on these days or like
yeah. So until medium change, so the structure I've been following for the longest time is that I edit for an hour in the morning. I write for about anywhere between 40 minutes to 1 hour, depending on how long. And then in the evening, I do social media stuff. Usually, I'm working for about 2.5 hours. And my business is not going around like Summit is only there 4 times a year for 3 weeks. So three, four, well, that's about 12, 3 months a year. And yeah, so that's the only time I'm a bit more active. But
mm,
apart from that, yeah, that's all I'm doing work-wise. Now I'm
amazing?
changing things a bit because I am now focusing on doubling down on Twitter and LinkedIn. So then there are threads, there are new LinkedIn ideas that are very different from medium. So now my new routine after figuring it out, but the hours will be similar. I don't want to spend my entire day work.
That's really good. I love how balanced that is. And you said that you were also started to work with sponsors for LinkedIn. How do you have a process for like finding sponsors, or do they contact you, or what's been working for
Well, in
you?
India, it's very easy because in India, influencer marketing is a very, very, very big thing. And it's a huge deal here, especially for Instagram, but now also for LinkedIn. So there's usually an agency which comes in play. It's not something that I personally enjoy so much, especially clients get such a hyped up price. Like if I quoted X, you're gonna quote like 40% more, and they're gonna tell me there's lack of transparency. But that's the system in India. And now that I've started using Passionfroot, at least I'll link it at the end of my newsletter, and some people coming from there. A very small example is tomorrow morning I have is on fitness instructor to train me because I'm like pretty hardcore into fitness, and he's pretty expensive and he wants to train me for free just to see how it goes, and then maybe I'll talk about it, right? Another example is that I'm in fact starting my ultra clean course today, which will start half an hour after the hour call in, and I got that through Patent, and that's what's like $1,000 if I had
Wow,
known it. Sadly, don't know. So yeah, it's helpful because I love how transparent it.
that's amazing. I'm so glad Passion Fruit's been helping you. And do you have like set prices for like sponsorships
I
and things?
have,
Yeah.
yeah, I've made it very transparent so there's as less back and forth as possible.
That's good. And I guess that helps you to keep to like a 4 hour workday, if not less.
Yeah, like I just think it's easier to sort of not haggle, right?
Yeah.
To just put it out there, and instead of, yeah, and even the other person wanted front to be not on my prices, and it doesn't, and then they've already wasted it, and I've disappointed them. So I don't, instead of that, it's good to have things right.
And how do you work with sponsors? What, because you seem like a very authentic creator and writer. So like how do you work with sponsors to make sure that your work, your voice is still very true to you and your personal brand is still very real and authentic?
I haven't done as many collaborations, but the ones that I've done, something that stays constant is that it's all going to be my story because that's why people follow me. And then I'm going to plug in the brand as it feels relevant to be a part of that story. That's what I did with Tapio, right? Like scheduling helps you save time. And I spoke about, and the thing is, I actually schedule my tweets and newsletters and I schedule a lot of things because it's such a one-time job for me. Otherwise, if I start live posting on Twitter, then I'm going to keep getting distracted. People back.
Yeah.
So actually, with their collaboration, I spoke about a 4 hour workday and how something like Tapio can help me with.
Amazing.
So it's my story, and then the brand is very relevant, like relevantly plugged in.
Yeah, I love that. I like how you reference it back to stories versus like, you know, just making sure that,
Marketing.
yeah, exactly. It just makes it sound so much more real
Yeah.
and genuine. I'm going to end now with a quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions that I ask every creator or writer that comes on air,
Okay.
starting with what's your favorite thing about being a creator?
Owning my time.
I love that. What's something that gives you the most inspiration for what you create?
My granddad.
Oh, that's
He
sweet.
hasn't, like, he's not alive anymore, but his entire life story. Yeah,
Amazing. And what's one tool that helps you as a creator, writer?
actually, helps a lot.
Oh, right, okay. Something that helps with your work-life balance.
Clockified because I know when it's like 3 hours, I should just like stop.
Oh, nice. I like how you're so
And it
structured.
makes me feel very grateful. Yeah, and it makes me feel very grateful that sometimes it's like 2 hours, 30 minutes, done everything, whereas
Wow.
like that's not the case with most people. So
Oh,
yeah, it makes me
100%.
feel grateful when I'm feeling like a brat.
I feel like you're one of the few people that I've had on air that actually have like 4 hour work days. I feel like creators talk about 4 hour work days all the time, but you're actually one of the few who
Yeah.
genuinely do
I
that.
actually say 4 hours to not sound lazy. Otherwise, it's less than 4 hours all the time. Like four is the upper limit. But then I think I'm gonna start feeling lazy and like somebody who doesn't do anything. So I just say four.
I love that. That's amazing. And what's one piece of advice that you would give to other creators?
Give it time. I mean, everyone sees my growth. They haven't seen that I've been writing since I was 7, writing online since I was 18, and I'm 27.
Wow.
So what you see is like pretty much decades of my skill, which is now paying off. So while you weren't seeing it, I've still been trusting my. So give it time.
Amazing. That's a great piece of advice to end on. Thank you so much for coming on air and sharing so much of
Thank
your
you for having me.
experiences.
Thank you.
It's amazing to know like how real and authentic you are and how that's shown in your work and attracted people.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You can find Niharikaa on her website, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And if you are a creator and you do sponsorships, check out Passionfroot. We help you to streamline your entire workflow. I'll see you in the next one.